Hello and welcome to another Practical IT video. Today we're talking about MX Linux 19.3, which is the latest version. This is based on Debian. Let's go ahead and get started with the process of setting it up in VirtualBox and taking a look around. All right, so I have started setting this up, but I haven't changed settings yet. So we're going to go ahead and go through this process. System, turn off floppy. We're going to add a second processor core and turn on PAE NX. Display, max out video memory, turn on 3D. In storage, we're going to create and add our new virtual optical disk. Add MX 19.3 x64. Open, choose, make sure it's the right ISO here. Under network, we're going to switch to bridged. Let's go ahead and kick off the installer. Okay. This is the November 11th, 2020 version. We're going to go ahead and even select VirtualBox Video, which is honestly a nice touch. Obviously, if you're doing this on a physical machine, you can just select that first option to go ahead and start booting. But I am in fact running this on VirtualBox, and so that is the proper selection for my setup. All right, here we go. This is MX Linux 19.3. Go ahead and close this. Got the installer on the desktop. Kind of nifty clock happening there. Let's see if we can do a little bit of switch up on the desktop here. Menu down at the bottom. We want settings and AR&R. And let's see if we can't switch this to a little bit better resolution. 1440 by 900 is definitely going to give us more room to work with. Again, not sure why we got 1920 by 1200, but no 1920 by 1080. But again, we don't have VirtualBox guest editions installed, so we will work with this. We'll get this installed and then see about installing guest editions. So let's kick off the installer. Okay, so we're good there. We're going to run Partition Tool. And we get gparted. And because we're going to run Lynis later, I am going to do some of this manually. All right, everything completed successfully. Close. Should be able to get out of this in just a moment. Okay. Custom install on existing partitions. That's good. Okay, let me refer to my cheat sheet. Root is the 7 gig partition. Home is the 8 gig partition. Swap is that one, and boot is 1 gig. Okay. I think I'm happy with that. Following partitions you selected are not Linux partition. SDA1 for the /boot. Make sure you want to reformat these partitions. Yes. No format. Okay. All right. I'll be right back when this is done with the formatting piece. Okay. We're at the next step of the installer. Computer name. Let's see. Computer domain is homelab.local. And we're going to turn off the Samba server. It detected the proper time. Format is fine. Continue through this. Default username. And the root password. Next. And it should continue on with the installer from here. And I'm going to pause again and we'll pick up when this is done. All right, let's reboot this thing and see what happens. All right, let's go ahead and log in with the password we created during install and see what might happen with the screen resolution. And now, first off, we got to get rid of that background. That is tiled and annoying. Okay, close that. All right, let's see if Control-Alt-T works to open a terminal. And it does. Make that a little bit bigger. Let's run some updates and then we'll start poking around while updates are running. Okay, so minimize that. Let's see about, let's look at, okay, so there we go. There's our terminal. Updates are running and everything is good there. Okay, so we do have Firefox installed by default. See what version we might have. I may be asking just a little too much of this VM right now, but hey, it's all good. Okay, we've got Firefox loading up. See if we can get a version number. Okay, about Firefox, 82. 84 is the current in most of the repositories. I think 85 just came out in the last day or two. So, little behind there. All right, let's see what we've got in our menu. Quick system info, xfce terminal, task manager, MX user manual, package installer, tools, LibreOffice, Conky toggle, run program, recently used, all programs, accessories, archive manager, bulk rename, pretty standard stuff, some backup utilities, Midnight Commander, task manager, Thunar file manager, development, get Genie, an icon browser, games, L Breakout, Mahjong, Peggy, and Swell Foop, whatever that is. Graphics, GIMP, scanning, specifically scan to PDF process. LibreOffice Draw, another scanning tool. Firefox, GNOME dial-up tool. Wow. Hex Chat, Thunderbird, and Transmission. Multimedia, Alsa Mixer, CD Ripper, Clementine, GMTP, and VLC Player, Xburn, MX Tools, has a good number of items there. Office, LibreOffice, of course, plus an ebook reader, and a couple of other things. PDF Arranger. I just read about that for the first time. Be interesting to see what that might give us. Okay, so this little system info tool is kind of interesting. First time I've seen this. It does give us the kernel version, which I'm surprised they're on a 4.19 kernel. I would have expected something in the 5 series. But it is based on Debian, and Debian does generally lag behind on jumping kernel versions. So we'll close that. We'll jump back here. That's still doing updates. Log out of that terminal session. All right, PDF Arranger. And I don't think I've got a PDF file on this system yet. But basically what this will let you do is move pages around in a PDF document, or remove pages, or any of a number of things like that. I'm not sure if I've even got a PDF on this system. I don't believe I do. I've not put anything on here. So I don't have anything to demonstrate this with yet, but we might look at that in a future video. Once updates finish, we can run Lynis, get a baseline score. I also want to do a little bit more poking around on the system, but I don't want to make everybody sit through this whole process here. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and I'll be back when this reaches 100%. Okay, so we finished the updates. I'm going to go ahead and install one additional package. And once that's done, we're going to reboot, and we will, that's actually done because it's already installed. We're going to just reboot this. Interesting that Build Essential is installed by default on Debian-based systems, but on Ubuntu-based systems, you have to manually install it. So, very interesting there. I'll be back once this gets booted back in. Okay, we've hit the login screen. Let's go ahead and make this happen. Hopefully we'll get in and be full screen. Hey, look at that. All right, so first thing I want to do is get a new terminal open, and we're going to go ahead, I'll make this a little bit bigger. Can't type today. We're going to go ahead and clone Lynis from GitHub. All right, and we're going to say sudo /Lynis audit system. And we're going to let this run and see what we get when we come to the end. All right, that seemed to take a really long time. Let's just take a look. So our base score is a 61. And just for the sake of curiosity here, come back up to the top, take a look at a couple of these things. Couldn't find two responsive name servers, grub, hardening system services, disabling core dump, PAM configuration, PAM module install, password age, some UMask suggestions. So interestingly enough, temp and var are on separate partitions. I'm not sure why that's complaining here. I specifically did that for this demo and it's still dinging me on the score. Disable drivers like USB storage when not in use, DNS configuration. This is one that I don't understand at all. This is not an RPM-based distribution, so that doesn't even belong here. Why there's an RPM binary, I don't have any idea. Resolve.conf file, fill in a backup name server if possible. Some of these are new that I have not seen before. Check CUPS configuration if it really needs to listen on the network. Firewall, legal banners, enable audit D to collect audit information. Other than that, it's pretty standard stuff. Obviously, I've just got this installed. I haven't really done anything to it, but of course, I also did not disable any of the tests. I am going to be working in the next week or two on a list of tests to disable and potentially putting that config file out on GitHub so that I can just clone that onto every new system and not have to worry about this quite as much. But 61 is not awful. It's definitely better than some other distributions I've looked at lately that only got a 60. Not by much, but hey, every point on the hardening index that you can get to push you in the right direction is a bonus. So let's go ahead and close this out. Overall, this is a pretty basic Linux desktop, nothing over the top, nothing, extremely spit polished. You do have some additional options that you don't get on Ubuntu-based distributions. So if you really hate systemd, you can disable that and run with sys5 init. There are a few things here in the quick launch. File manager is going to be Thunar. So this is from the xfce desktop, which we are currently running. You can create launchers. You can open terminals, desktop settings, properties. You do have some applications. Looks like most of your menu. So this is similar to a Fluxbox type situation. Or desktop, and yeah, not too bad for a Debian-based system. It's got some custom tweaks. It's got some interesting software selections added, and it's really enough to get you started. Now, am I ready to recommend this for new Linux users for everyday desktop use? Probably not, but that depends on what hardware you want to run this on. If you're just going to play around with it in VirtualBox, sure, give it a run. Play with it for a couple of weeks. See what you like and what you don't like. VirtualBox is free, so even if you're running Windows as your base system, you could run MX Linux on top of Windows with VirtualBox and just get an idea of what you might like and not like about it. Are there other XFCE based desktops that are a little more polished? Yes, absolutely. if I were going to make a recommendation of an XFCE based Linux distribution, I would recommend Mint. And the reason for that is that it is a little bit more refined. It is a little bit flashier looking on the surface, and it might just offer something a little nicer for a new user to take advantage of. For my purposes, personally, I would be interested in trying this out on real hardware. I've got a couple of, and you're going to laugh, a couple of Core 2 Duo machines hanging around still, and I think this might be a great use for one of those machines just to squeeze a little bit of extra life out of it and have another machine on the network. One thing I do normally test on a new distribution that I'm looking at is to see if it detects my printer. I've not done that yet, so let's take a quick look. If this decides to load up, no printer's configured yet. We're going to add printer. I have a suspicion it's not going to find it. Look under network printer. Oh, but it did. So it found my Brother 5370 DW, and so I can go ahead and configure that on the network. Now the other thing I'm always curious about is, what does it see under Browse Network? And so this has my Home Assistant, and it's got my QNAP NAS, but it doesn't list either the Synology boxes, and it doesn't list the Buffalo NAS that I've still got floating on my network. So this is a little interesting, and we could go ahead and connect to Lord Nikon, and it does show the CIFS shares, and it should prompt for a password. I wish they would swap domain and password on this dialog box. See if it will connect. And it looks like it did once we get this dialog box out of the way. Okay, let's see what we've got here. All right. So that was just a test folder that I made in a previous video, but it is in fact showing that drive and letting us log in. Now under Windows Network, currently it's showing nothing, but that's not the end of the world. So we're going to say apply to that. So is the network piece for connecting to network storage as refined as Pop! OS, Mint, or Ubuntu? No. Is it usable? Yes. So I would give this distribution, based on my test up to this point, I would give it a 8.5 out of 10. There are definitely things that could be improved, but it's polished enough, and especially for people that have some experience with Linux, it's very usable. On that note, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. I'm still unsure on a couple of these volumes here, but hey, that's all right. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the video. If you watched the end and you got something out of this video, please take a moment and give a thumbs up, click the bell icon for notifications, subscribe to the channel. Feel free to leave comments down below. This is the first time I've looked at MX Linux in probably 2 or more years. I think it's come quite a ways in that period of time. And you know, I may very well take a look at the KDE version of this as well, just to see how much different that might behave. And now with all that out of the way, I just want to say again, thank you for watching. Stay safe out there. Happy computing. and have a great day. I'll see you in the next video.